Yeah, I'm Greg.
And I'm Billy.
And we're the Fuji Guys. Fuji Guys now, you've already seen our first look of our XQ1, this gorgeous little high-end compact camera. This video, we're going to get into some of the top features. Billy's going to describe how to set up that feature, what the benefit of that feature is, and show you some cool results of those. Anyway, so Billy, take us away and show us the top features, please.
Let's check it out. The brand new XQ1 uses a 12 megapixel 2/3 inch X-Trans CMOS 2 sensor, and this is the latest sensor that of course incorporates a unique color filter array that we developed called X-Trans, and it allows for sharper images by eliminating the need for an optical low-pass filter. It also uses the latest EXR processor 2 chip that provides for very fast startup time as well as shot-to-shot and even continuous shooting. This sensor is generally larger than the majority of the point-and-shoot cameras out there, so even though this camera is very compact in size, it does carry a sensor size that's quite large, which means that you're going to get great image quality in low-light situations. And coupled with the fast lenses, of course, it makes it the perfect camera to take with you everywhere. The XQ1 offers a 4x Fujinon optical zoom lens that starts off at an f1.8, which is very fast, and at the full telephoto side of the zoom, it goes to an f4.9. Now, having that very fast aperture, of course, at the wide angle, is going to give you the ability to shoot in low light situations, of course, allowing for lower ISOs. And coupled with the large sensor, it's going to give you great image quality in those situations, including the low light when shooting at high ISO. Now, the zoom control is electronic zoom. As you can see, the toggle on the top, you can move to zoom in and zoom out. And of course, you can see that's the case right there. On the back of the LCD screen, you also notice that there's actually a point here. And that's, again, we have basically super intelligent, and then we have an additional a digital zoom function on top of that. So that's kind of neat to show. In addition to that, of course, you can also configure the control ring on the front of the camera to adjust the zoom as well. So as you rotate the zoom, it also moves along with you. So you have two options. If you wanted a one-handed operation, you could. Of course, in addition to that, you can also use that command or the control ring in the front to adjust the zooms instead. And this sometimes gives you a little bit more stability when you want to zoom in on a subject and reduce any blur that has to do with camera shake. The camera also incorporates a new lens modulation optimization processor inside that actually optimizes this particular lens to the 2/3 inch sensor that's going to give you, of course, better image quality in the long run. The XQ1 offers a unique hybrid autofocus system that utilizes phase detection pixels to produce a very fast autofocus time. As you can see, pushing the button halfway down allows you to quickly lock focus from a foreground subject to a background subject. And depending on the lighting situation, it automatically switches from either contrast detection to the phase detection, which is generally found on DSLR cameras that use that. And it offers, of course, a very, very fast autofocus. In addition to that, you can actually move the autofocus points by pushing the E function button, which gives you a quick access to the autofocus points. There's 49 different points, and you can move that along the edge of the camera, as you can see right there. And this allows you to really, keep the exposure while ensuring that the focus is correct on the subject. And as you can see there, I focus on the Fuji Guys bobblehead, but I get the exposure of this scene, of course. And of course, with that, going to the AF points, you can also shrink the AF points, as you can see right there, by using the command dial. And then of course moving the points wherever you want. Now, as you shrink the autofocus point, it becomes more and more accurate to where you want to really focus. Of course, by doing that as well, though, you may incur a little bit of a slower autofocus because now it's selecting only that area where, with a larger square, it has much more area to determine what the focus could be. So you want to play around with that to your particular settings. In addition to, of course, the autofocus on the camera, you do have a continuous autofocus option as well. And that can be accessed through, of course, the menu here. As you can see, there's a continuous autofocus, and the way it works now is that, as you push the button halfway down, the camera starts to continue to adjust the focus, and it will shift back and forth. And then when you're ready to take a picture, you snap the shot. So it's going to help reduce the autofocus acquisition time. In addition to that, you also have, of course, the manual focus. And by selecting manual focus now, as you can see, you use the command dial in the back here to adjust the focus. It does offer things like focus peaking, and as you adjust the focus points, the control ring allows you to adjust the focus points. And you can see right there, quickly it jumps between the foreground and the background, and it does an auto zoom for you. You can disable that in the menu, and because of focus peaking, as you see, it has that glimmering effect, and you know that at that setting there, it's going to be in focus. You can take a snapshot, and there you go. If you zoom in on the shot, you can see that the Fujifilm symbol is nicely in focus. So that's just the autofocus setting. Now in the menu itself, you can of course disable the focus peaking if you wanted just to go through to the standard focusing mode. So as you can see there, you can do it through the menu or through the E function button, and then the AF manual focus assist can be selected from either focus peak highlights or using the standard, which basically is a little harder to tell because now you're just looking at the screen and trying to judge contrast. And it may be easier for you to see, but you know, the manual focusing with the peaking does help a lot to really ensure focus. The XQ1 offers a new control ring in the front of the camera, just in front of the lens. As you can see, you can use it to adjust the zoom controls electronically if you don't want to use the top dial. You can also adjust manual focus as well as change different modes. So on the camera, if I set it to the advanced filter options, there's 8 advanced filters. I can use the control ring to use and adjust the different advanced filters on the camera. If I set it to the scene position mode on this camera, I can also use the control ring again to adjust the different scene shooting modes, as you can see, and I can toggle through that. In addition to that, if I were to set the camera to, say, manual focus, so if I go into the menus and adjust the settings to be manual focus instead, this ring now can also be set to adjust the manual focusing controls on the camera, as you can see right there. As you see, it's focused. You can take a snapshot. So this is a quite unique feature. It can be customized if you go into the menu of the camera. So if you push the menu OK, and you use the directional pad to either push down or scroll down until you see the control ring settings. You can then set it from the default, which is the standard, and it automatically adjusts for the most appropriate scenes settings on your camera. Or you can just hard set it to be adjusting exposure compensation, ISO, white balance, film simulation, the different continuous shooting modes, and of course, could always use it to control the zoom. So again, I like to leave it on the standard default because it automatically adjusts to the different settings. Like I said again, it's a quite unique and useful feature that allows you to really take hold of your camera for easy access to different settings on this camera. The XQ1 has a built-in Wi-Fi functionality that allows you to transfer images from the camera to your smartphone, whether it's running iOS or Android. It's quite simple actually. You push the playback button to look at the images that you want to transfer over to your smartphone. You push the E function button, which doubles as the Wi-Fi on and off switch, and it starts the Wi-Fi communication. All you have to do with your smartphone, of course, is to open up the Fujifilm camera application that's, of course, free to download. From there, you click on Receive. Of course, there's other options like browsing, and again, once it's connected, it should look for that. You say OK to transmit from the camera. So it's automatically going to transmit to your smartphone. From there, you can, of course, share those images onto your computer. In addition to that, of course, if I get out of that, I can also browse images that are on my camera. So if I can click on Browse, again, it's going to push the Wi-Fi button to start the Wi-Fi, and it's going to auto-connect it from my camera to my smartphone again, and it's going to look for images that are being found on my phone, and hopefully it should show up here. As you see, it's connected. It's going to show all the images that's on this camera. There's only actually one image. From there, I can actually probably import that image if I wanted to. You can select that and click import. It's going to now import images, that image from my smartphone onto, from my camera onto my smartphone. So it's quite simple. If it's your very first time, you may have to go into the settings menu of your smartphone to make sure that it connects to the camera, that it remembers the connection. And going forward, it should automatically do that without having to connect. And you have to do, it's what I do today, which is just open up the Fujifilm camera application. So that's just a quick look. Of course, there's also a PC autosave feature. If you download an app on your computer, you can also connect this to your home network. And by doing that, you can now transfer your images wirelessly through your home network onto your computer and save it automatically just by turning on the Wi-Fi function on the back of this camera. The XQ1 offers an E-function button, which allows you to map these extra buttons here on the back to do other functions. So as you can see, it's a playback, movie record, display back. You got your little toggle that changes macro, the flash, exposure compensation, whatnot. But if I push the E function button, these buttons now actually duplicate to be things like ISO control by pushing left. Okay, I can push right for white balance controls. I can push up to change the continuous shooting options on this camera. I can again push the top button here, the playback button, to change film simulation. I can also push this record button again to adjust my focusing modes. But of course, you can customize this to the way you like as well. And you can do that by going into the menu on the camera. And if you scroll down and see the E-function settings, E-function button, custom settings, you can push left, you can configure the dials to what you like. So if you wanted to change ISO to something else, you can push to the left and adjust it to some of the different options available to you. As you can see, you can enable face detection. So if I want to use face detection quickly, now when I push the E-function button, I can push left to turn on my face detection, which is on, or I can actually turn it off again by pushing that option again. So it's a great option to double up the buttons on the back of this camera. The XQ1 offers a super intelligent flash system. Of course, there's a built-in pop-up flash, and it's effective to about 7 feet. The built-in flash, again, like I said, uses a super intelligent flash system that automatically controls the flash output so it doesn't wash out a subject, whether it's a close-up macro shot that you wanted to do or whether it's a portrait shot of a subject. As you can see there, when I look back at the images, you'll see that the images are nice and even. And if you ever use super intelligent flash on any of our other cameras, you can see the image is not washed out at all, where some other cameras that don't have this system, this whole scene will be completely washed out. So it's a great little option that it's automatic, and it really helps to fill in the subject or the subject matter that is. And of course, it provides for the proper flash output so that it doesn't wash out the subject. Now, if you go into the menu of the camera, of course, in the shooting menu, you can also adjust the flash output manually by changing the flash compensation. And you can have it obviously exposed over 2 stops to power up the flash if you're shooting in low light situations. And again, this flash system generally, though, is very useful in any lighting situation, whether it's a close-up shot or it's a portrait. Again, it makes it very simple to take flash photographies without washing out your subject. The XQ1 offers a very fast high-speed shooting mode up to about 12 frames a second at the max resolution. So this camera is a 12 megapixel camera. It's going to offer you basically max resolution at 12 megapixels at that very fast frame rate. In order to set that mode, you can push the E function button and push up on the directional pad if that's what's being configured. From there, it brings up the drive menu where you can select the high-speed shooting modes. You have different speeds: low speed, medium speed, high speed, and super high speed. If I selected super high speed, as you can see, I can push the button halfway down to pre-focus, and when I'm ready to take the shot, I can hold the shutter button completely down, and it fires a bunch of shots really quickly. And then when it hits the buffer point of 9 frames, it then slows it down to a slower frame rate. But as you can see, it's still quite fast. And of course, I recommend if you're doing a lot of those shots to get a very fast card, so that it can write quickly to the card. Of course, now the shots are actually grouped together. So in order to see that shot, you have to push down on the directional pad. From there, as you can see, I shot 44 shots in that very short time frame. I can rotate the dial and see the different shots I've taken because I didn't really move. There was no moving subject. As you can see, you don't really see too much of the scene, but this is a very useful feature for taking pictures of fast action shots where you can't really anticipate the shot, so that it really takes the guesswork away. So again, via the E function menu, pushing upwards to select the drive modes, you can select the shooting modes. Now, in addition to that as well, there's what's called best frame capture feature. And when you select that, you can set it up to do a few things. First of all, you check the speed. You can have it super fast, high, medium, or low. So I'm just going to select super fast again. And then you can select the number of frames that it will capture. So you have a choice of 7 frames or I guess it's only 7 frames in this high speed mode. And the way it works is that as I move this directional pad left or right, as you can see the numbers change: 4 and 3, 3 and 4, 2 and 5, 1 and 6. What it does is that it captures 8 shots, of which, if this is the setting that I want to set it up to, the first shot is going to be captured prior to me pushing the shutter button completely down, and 6 shots after the shutter button is completely pushed down, and 1 shot right when I push the shutter button. So what I'm going to do is configure this now to say 3 and 4 instead. And what this setting is going to do now is capture 3 shots prior to me fully depressing the shutter button, 1 shot as I push the shutter button, and 4 more shots after the button's been pressed. And that's going to take the guesswork away of an action shot. So as I'm anticipating a subject coming through the screen, I'm going to push halfway down. It starts to shoot, but it doesn't take anything until I push completely down. And once I push completely down, again, 3 shots are saved prior to me pushing the button completely down, 1 shot as it's being captured, and 3 shots more as it finishes off the capture. And again, you could configure that by pushing left or right on the directional pad. And that's a kind of cool feature if you want to help take the guesswork away of fast action moving shots. The XQ1 offers full HD video at either 60 frames or 30 frames a second, so it's going to be very smooth action if you wanted to shoot at 60 frames. It uses a stereo microphone that's built into the camera, and it records, of course, this video in a H.264 format. The recording on the camera, of course, is done by pushing the record button on the back of the camera. As you can see, it starts recording. The autofocus system will adjust. You can zoom during the video, and it will be a very smooth zoom. Now you will notice, of course, because of the microphone built into the camera, there will be a little bit of noise being picked up as you zoom in, zoom out. So you wanted to avoid that as possible. Again, autofocus is an option. During the recording feature as well, you can actually take snapshots. Here you can see there's 30 shots I can take. By pushing the shutter button, it will allow me to take shots, as you can see. And if I wanted to stop the recording, I just push the record button again. Now the record button is recessed a little bit so you don't accidentally push the record button during the photo shooting modes. Now playing back the video, of course, this is the image that was shot. And videos will have this little film strip. So you push down on the directional pad, and that will allow you to play the video. So that's just a little video demo there. As you can see, I was just trying to show you how the audio differs as I rotate. So the speakers are built into the camera as well. Okay. Now, during the video option, if I wanted to do manual focusing, I could. I can actually push the E function button, change my manual focus, my autofocus mode to manual focus. And now when I record, I can adjust using the control ring to adjust the manual focus. And this is great where I want the focus to hunt in certain situations. Maybe I'm at a concert and I want to have the focus all set, or I want to show that the background and foreground, I can jump between focus. As you can see, the Fuji Guys in the back. Now the foreground's in focus, the background's in focus. So you can kind of pull focus. And I prefer shooting in manual focusing modes anyways, which of course eliminates the noise from the autofocus system. And of course, it makes for a better video when you pre-plan the scene that you're shooting with. So again, there's several options on the video mode. If you go into the menu OK button on this camera, you can configure the movie modes for different options. So I'm just going to show you that quickly. Go into the movie setup. You can change it from full HD video at 60 or 30 frames a second, 720p video, and you could even shoot at high-speed video. So if I selected high-speed video at 200 frames a second, let's take a look at that mode. I'm going to have a little pencil here, a pen I'm going to drop, and as you can see, I'm going to start recording. Drop the pencil, and that was just a quick second of recording. But if I play that back, as you can see here, it's quite slow motion video again. So let me just play that back again. And let me just try to record one more time and drop it a little high up. So I'm going to start the recording, drop the pencil or pen, and then now play back the video. As you can see in slow motion at 240 frames a second, this pen is going to eventually come into the screen, as you can see right there. So really cool slow motion action for this camera as well. In addition to the different movie settings, you can change the focusing, like I said, to be manual, continuous, or center focus. You can change the priority of the video. So if you have it on movie priority, when you take a snapshot, the images will not affect the video itself. If you put it to still image priority, the image will be larger, but there'll be a little bit of a blip in the video, of course, to process that file. So I generally like to leave it on the movie priority mode. And again, this is a great camera that does it all, including this great full HD video. The XQ1 uses a new 3-inch screen that offers a 920K resolution, so it's nice and clear. It uses a hardened glass in the back to help prevent from scratches, but of course you can also buy screen protectors that are of this ratio to attach on as you want. In bright sunlight, the screen can be obviously adjusted in the menu, but you can also hold the E function button down for a few seconds, and it'll bring up the monitor sunlight mode that brightens up the LCD so that it's much easier to see in bright sunlight. And you can disable that by holding down the E function button again, and it's back to the normal display on the back of the camera. Now, there's a display back button, and by toggling through that, you can toggle through the different options for displays. You can have no information on the camera, so if you wanted to take photos and compose without any information, you can do that. You can push the display button to do the customize mode, which gives you things like horizon levels, histogram displays, all your camera settings. And going into the menu of the camera, of course, under the display custom settings, you can adjust all those things. So if you want to disable the histogram, you could. You want to take off the framing guidelines, you could. So by doing that, now I'm going back to the screen. My grid lines are no longer available there. So again, using the display back button will toggle through the different displays. And depending on your preference, you can set it up to the way you like. I generally like to have it on the custom mode. I like having the horizon level to ensure that my image is always level with the horizon. The XQ1 is a great point and shoot camera, meaning you can take this camera, set it up to what we call the SR Plus Auto mode, which is the Scene Recognition Plus Auto or Advanced SR Auto, and it really configures the camera's white balance, focusing, exposure to the scene that you're shooting with, whether it's a macro shot that you're doing, so it switches to it, whether perhaps it detects a face, so it uses a portrait setting to give you better skin tones, using face detection, of course. And if the subject's actually moving during the scene, let's see if I can try to do this, it may determine that it's a motion shot, and it will try to bump up the ISO so that you don't get any blur in it. That it didn't work for me there, but it should as well. And I like having that. It also detects a different background. So you're shooting in a greenery landscape, maybe you're shooting at the beach, maybe you're shooting with a portrait of a subject and the sun behind the back. It's going to know that. It's going to tell you to pop the flash open to take a shot so that you don't get that silhouette effect if you didn't want to do that. Again, the SR Plus Auto mode, it's a great mode where you pick up the camera, you push the shutter button, and it's optimized for the exact setting. It makes it very simple, and I generally like this mode for most of my shots because the camera is very smart. It's going to know what settings to shoot at, adjust the ISO accordingly, the white balance setting accordingly, so that again, if I'm in a beach scene or if I'm in maybe a skiing snow scene, my image doesn't look very blue. The colors are properly coming out through the SR Plus Auto mode. So it's a great little feature to have on this camera. Like most point-and-shoot cameras or compact cameras in this size, you'll definitely find that there's a great macro functionality on these. By pushing the directional pad here, as you can see, I can select the macro mode. It gets me to about 3 centimeters away. If I'm too close, as you can see there, it might show, oh, actually I'm not too close. It will show that it's out of focus. As I zoom back out, as you can see, about 3 centimeters, two things are going to show up for me. This green box, and of course this green dot in the bottom telling me that it achieved focus. So as you can see that, it takes a great macro shot. And with the 6-blade aperture that's built onto this camera, what you're going to end up having, of course, is not only a very sharp image, but the background, as you can see, is very nice and creamy. The what we call the focus area or the bokeh effect is quite nice having the 6-blade aperture, and it makes for a very good shooting experience with macro. Now, in addition to that, I can zoom in on the subject, and I can also use the macro mode too if I wanted to. And again, it has the same rule about 3 centimeters away in the zoom position, and it allows me to also take close-up shots. So if I'm taking insects that are on a leaf and I can't physically move there, I can use my zoom to get closer, and if I can't achieve focus, I would enable the macro mode to allow me to reduce that focus so that I can actually obtain focus in those situations. So the camera has some cool features, shooting features. One of them is the advanced filter feature that's now on the actual dial of the camera, so I can switch the mode to filters. And from there, you have various filter effects. This one is the toy camera, so it gives you a little bit of vignetting on the round. It gives you sort of a retro style look to the image. What's great about this setting on this camera is that you see a live preview of what you're going to capture. So if I take the snapshot, it should come out the way that I see it on my screen right now. Okay. Now, to adjust the different advanced filter mode, I could use the control ring. So I can rotate the control ring to the different modes. There's different settings. I'm going to go through them quickly here. You can see there's toy camera. There is a miniature effect. As you can see, it blurs the top and bottom half, gives you the ability to capture sort of a scene that looks like it's a model or a diorama effect. I can change it to pop color, which gives you more punchier colors. High key, so it gives you some bright overexposure areas. Low key, which is the opposite. A dynamic tone feature. Soft focus, sort of like giving sort of a little Vaseline in the front to blur the subject around. There's partial colors, so that it isolates one color from the scene and everything else becomes monochromes. In this instance here, this is red. Everything else is, of course, not red, so it doesn't appear in color. It appears in black and white. If I set it to, again, orange, yellow, green, and blue, as you can see, the blue camera now shows up. And again, I get a live preview of this so that when I take a snapshot, it's going to capture exactly what I see. So if I look back at that image and I zoom in, as you can see, only the blue camera showed up. Everything else is monochrome in color, and I really like that feature. Now, of course, I believe you can also go into the menu and go into the advanced mode and manually use the directional pad to adjust the advanced filter features as well. But like I said, the nice ring in the front allows you to conveniently switch it quickly to the various advanced filter features on this camera. Now, if you wanted to do a little bit more creativity on this camera, there's also a multi-exposure functionality. So if I go into the advanced dial, this is where I can access things like the motion panoramic mode, where I can take a snapshot and it fires a bunch of shots and stitches it together. This is going to be completely 360. It might not work, but it actually worked pretty good. In addition to that, I can use the control ring and adjust it to the Pro Focus, Pro Low Light mode, and something called multi-exposure. Multi-exposure allows me to take 2 shots and it superimposes it into one image. So if I take a snapshot of the Etch-a-Sketch key, okay, if I like that, I push OK, and now it gives me a ghosting image, and now I can zoom in on maybe my Fuji Guys and maybe stick the XP as one of the eyes of my shot there. As you can see, take another snapshot. I'm going to focus on my subject. And as you can see right there, I'm going to store that, and now I have this cool multi-exposure effect As you can see, that has two images that are superimposed together. So really cool filters and functionalities with the XQ1. The XQ1 offers, of course, various shooting modes like shutter priority, aperture priority, as well as full manual control. So you can adjust both the shutter speeds on the camera as well as the aperture on the camera as well. Again, it goes from 1.8 all the way up to an f11. So if you want more depth of field, you would use the f11, and if you wanted more shallow depth, you would shoot at the widest open possible, which is 1.8. And as you adjust the dial itself, as you can see, the exposure reading on the left will tell you that it's either overexposed, underexposed, or properly exposed in this scene for this particular setting. Now, of course, in addition to the controls, for manual modes, you can also shoot not just JPEG images, but also RAW images. So if you go into the menu on the camera, you can go to the image quality and select different options from fine JPEG, which means it's very low compression, normal JPEG, which has a little bit more compression. The file size is a little bit smaller, of course. You have the ability to shoot also with JPEG and RAW files, JPEG normal with RAW files, or just pure RAW. So I'm going to show you the RAW alone. I highly recommend, if you're shooting RAW, that you use the fastest SD card possible. This camera can obviously use ultra high speed cards, class 10 of course, and the faster the card, the faster the experience is going to be for the RAW files to be written into the memory card. So in RAW, let's take a look at how this is going to be done. I'm going to take a snapshot here. And you know what? I'm going to play with this. I want to change the white balance on this camera to be completely off. So I'm going to choose something a little bit weird. Maybe a weird Kelvin scale. As you can see, the color is really warm. I'm going to take that snapshot. And the great thing with RAW is that, if I make that mistake accidentally, I can process this RAW file to adjust for this color correction. So if I wanted to process this, I'll again go into the menu. I'll go down to the RAW conversion option. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to adjust the white balance because I knew it was incorrect, but it was my mistake, of course. So I'm going to set it up to be maybe sunny day. You know what? I'm going to choose incandescent lighting because this is probably what the lighting is. Then I'm going to create this RAW file to a JPEG. So it's built-in RAW conversion. And as you can see there, I just corrected this image. So an image that looked incorrect with incorrect colors, RAW gives me the benefits of correcting those errors in white balance. So much easier to do than to use this image as a JPEG and try to do that on a computer. So this is the benefits of RAW, of course. RAW files are bigger, so you want to make sure you have a big card and a very fast card because the file size, of course, is also bigger. So this is a great feature on this camera, the RAW capabilities of the XQ1. Let's take a look at the quick access to the bracketing modes on this camera. So by pushing the E function button, I can push up to look at my drive options. And one of the drive options, of course, is to be able to do things like auto exposure bracketing. So it will underexpose, overexpose a shot. Let me just set it to one stop. I'm going to take a snapshot of this scene. It's going to capture 3 shots for me. And one's going to be, of course, underexposed by one stop. One is overexposed by a stop, and one that's properly exposed. And this can help you determine, what the scene should be like, and so that you can shoot it and set it correctly with the exposure. Some people like to do that and create sort of a dynamic range photo by combining the 3 images together. Again, going back to the drive mode, pushing the E function button, pushing up, I can change things like ISO bracketing, film simulation bracketing, as well as dynamic range bracketing. So let's take a look at the film simulation bracketing. In this mode, it allows me, again, to take 3 shots, 1 shot actually, and it actually creates 3 different film emulations from Velvia, Provia, and to basically what you set it to be. But if you go into the menu, so let me go back into the shooting menu, push the menu OK button, go down to film simulation bracketing. I can configure film 1 to be, instead of standard, I want sort of an ASTIA soft film, which is like portrait film. I want to set my film 2 to be a monochrome black and white with maybe a red filter. If I'm shooting outdoors and there's a lot of clouds, I want to accentuate the clouds. Film 3 maybe, I want to set it to shoot maybe in an old school look, sepia look, right? That's not really a film, it's really a processing that's done. So in the bracketing mode now, if I take a snapshot, it's going to take one shot and create those 3 files for me. Sepia, this is black and white, monochrome with the red filter, and of course this is ASTIA film for portrait shooting. So again, this is a great feature for when you don't have that time and opportunity, you don't want to edit on the computer, maybe your baby was just born and you wanted to get 3 different color options. You can quickly set that, take your snapshot with 1 picture and have 3 different images and quickly upload that, you know, using the Wi-Fi connection to your smartphone and posting it to social media. So a great little convenient option to have on this camera, both the bracketing mode as well as the film simulation modes on the XQ1.
Yeah, definitely something I'm going to be carrying around in my pocket. So yeah, I see this as a great complement camera. You know, it's also one that I can just hand over to someone and say, here, take our picture kind of thing if I'm traveling, and there's really nothing intimidating. It's very minimalistic, as you had said.
Very stylish, for sure.
I love it. Seems very, very fast, very, very high quality. Put a nice case on that one and either have it on your hip or even slide it into your pocket. It's a beauty. So anyways, check out all our videos by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Follow Billy on Twitter for all the latest news from Fuji. Until next video, I'm Greg.
And I'm Billy.
And we're the Fuji Guys.